Hey, what's up guys? Today we'll be talking about the brand new 16-inch MacBook Pro, and this is a big one. For all of the 2015 MacBook Pro users out there that are holding out for a fixed MacBook, this is it. They addressed the two biggest criticisms with the 2016 design, being the keyboard and the thermals, so let's talk about those two first. They ditched the butterfly switches that were having a ton of problems with reliability and went with the traditional scissor switch that you see on the 2015 MacBook Pros and the Magic Keyboard. And according to iFixit's teardown, these switches are identical to the Magic Keyboard that's included with the iMacs. That should mean much better reliability, but in terms of feel and typing experience, I would say they feel about the same as the previous 4th generation butterfly switches. They don't quite feel like the 2015 keyboard. Still very low key travel, decent tactile feedback but softer than the butterfly switches. The keycaps are now slightly smaller, but I'm still able to type at the usual 95 words per minute with good accuracy. So it's really just the low key travel that's bugging me. The touch bar has been separated from the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, and the escape key is now its own physical key, which is really nice to see. The arrow keys have also switched back to the inverted T style, so the left and right arrow keys are half height. Bit of a personal preference with this one, but that's another change that they made. The thermals are also significantly improved to the point where it's on par with some of the better thin and light gaming laptops, specifically the Lenovo Y740. That laptop had particularly good thermals. It was able to maintain 75 watts on the CPU at around 95 to 99 degrees. This is able to maintain 70 watts on the same 6-core CPU at around 95 degrees Celsius in Cinebench R20. For context, the previous Core i9 MacBook Pro maintained 55 watts at 90 degrees. The impressive part with this is that this is still a very thin laptop, and it's not unreasonably loud with the fans either, so really solid improvement with the thermals, and it's great to see that the CPU can go full boost without hitting the 100 degree limit. It's using the same Intel 9th generation CPUs as the previous model because Intel hasn't released 10th generation 45 watt CPUs yet, but the GPUs are significantly better even compared to the highest end Vega 20 on the previous model. It's using the new 7nm Radeon Pro 5300M and 5500M with up to 64 gigs of RAM and up to 8 terabytes of NVMe storage. It starts at the same base price as last year, so $2,400 at the base configuration, and double the base storage respectively, so 512 gigs on the base model. And the fully spec'd configuration costs less than last year despite having double the maximum RAM and storage. Unfortunately, it doesn't support Wi-Fi 6, but of the many Intel Wi-Fi 6 laptops that I've tested, they all seem to cap out at around 550 to 600 megabits per second, whereas my 2016 15-inch and this 2019 16-inch both consistently max out the gigabit connection to my server. If I move a couple rooms away, both of them seem to drop to around 350 megabits per second, so I haven't really found a benefit to the Intel AX200 in terms of real-world improvement compared to the current MacBook Pro Wi-Fi cards, but ideally you would have 3x3 Wi-Fi 6. The most obvious change with this laptop would be the larger 16-inch screen size. The panel itself is a little bit worse in image quality than the previous 2019 15-inch, still a great panel overall, but it is noticeable if you're coming from a 2016 or newer. Brightness has dropped to 410 nits, which is still really good, just not quite the 500 nits like before. It's got perfect color accuracy out of the box, full coverage of the sRGB and DCI-P3 color gamut, and 1300:1 contrast ratio with almost no backlight bleed. The previous model measured in at 1550:1 contrast for context, and the bezels are much thinner for 2019. It's still one of the best laptop displays on the market for content creation and image quality in general, but it is unfortunate to see that the brightness and contrast has dropped slightly from the 15-inch. They've also improved the already excellent speakers to the point where I'm not sure physics would allow these to get any better. They are extremely loud and they use 6 drivers in total. One tweeter for the treble and mids with 2 subwoofers aimed up and down, which they call force cancelling, with the vibrations from the subwoofers getting cancelled out by the opposite subwoofer. In terms of sound quality, it's got excellent bass, even down to as low as 60 Hz, and since it uses a separate upward-firing tweeter, the vocals and singers are still very detailed and clean without being masked by the bass. Also, easily the best laptop microphone that I've heard. It's really nice to not need a dedicated mic when you're in something like a Discord voice chat or just in any voice call. However, for anyone who does video conferencing, unfortunately it still uses a 720p webcam that looks pretty bad. The trackpad is still by far the best trackpad of any laptop, still better than using a mouse because of how responsive and smooth the gestures are. You can adjust the amount of force it takes before it clicks, and it's just really nice to not feel the need to bring a mouse with you to class or to work. It's still got 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, with a headphone jack on the right. My personal opinion is that they should add 2 more standard USB-C ports without Thunderbolt 3 for stuff like keyboards that are constantly plugged in. I have yet to need more than 4 ports at once, but if we're on the theme of going all out, like no holding back, that extra flexibility with the 2 extra ports could come in handy. It just means that you don't have to use USB hubs to expand more ports. The battery capacity has been bumped up to the US legal limit for commercial airplanes, being 100 watt-hours, and I'm getting about 10 hours of battery life up from 8 hours with screen brightness at 90%. The big thing with this is that when you're 3-4 years in and your battery capacity is down to 80%, you're still going to make it through a full 8-hour workday, and that's really important if you're going to be keeping this thing for 5+ years. It's also using a new 96 watt charger that's bringing it closer to the 100 watt USB-C limit, and it just gives a bit more power for the improved thermals. So I think it's safe to say that this is a very easy recommendation, not just for 2015 MacBook Pro users, but for anyone who's looking for a high-end laptop in general. Now, it's not cheap by any means, but if you can afford the $2,400 starting price tag, I think this does the best job at maximizing portability and performance of any laptop. It's thin and light with well more than a full day of battery life, even at high brightness, and it's able to maintain full performance on the CPU and GPU without sounding like a vacuum cleaner. The only thing it's missing is user upgradable hardware, but given all of the laptops that I've reviewed, I'm personally willing to give that up because there's really nothing else on the market that's as good as this in all areas, regardless of price. I know it's expensive, but I would love to know if you think it's something that you would buy if you could afford the high price tag. That is the end of this review. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it helpful. I will see you next time.